All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how to calculate the area of a circle. But before we do that, we need to take a little bit of an opportunity to review here. So what we've learned so far is we've learned about circumference of a circle. So we know that circumference is going to be the distance around. Similar to when we're dealing with a rectangle, we call that perimeter. Okay, so the perimeter of a circle is called circumference. We know that. All right, and we also know that when we're dealing with a rectangle, that surface area means all of this space that is inside the entire surface of the rectangle. Now, the other thing that we know is that whenever we do any kind of a measurement, we always calculate it in the measurement squared. So let's say, for example, this is 8 centimeters and this is 4 centimeters. We know our formula is going to be base times height equals our area. And so therefore this would be 8 times 4 equals 32. And what we are going to report in is, because we're measuring in centimeters, we would say that the area equals 32 centimeters squared. And that little symbol there means squared. Now, what that actually means is that if we were to take a square centimeter, so if this was 1 centimeter this way and 1 centimeter this way, that is, in fact, 1 centimeter squared. It's a 1 by 1 square. And what they're saying here is that this entire surface area here, you could fit 32 of those squares inside of it. That's what it actually means. So what we're trying to figure out is the same kind of concept here, dealing with circles. So let's take a look at what that's actually going to look like. All right, so when we're dealing with finding the area of a circle, we have to rely on a couple of mathematicians that are a lot smarter than us that have come up with a formula to allow us to calculate it. And obviously we got our funny little symbol here, pi, which is actually spelled like this, pi. All right, and pi actually represents an irrational number that is 3.14 that goes on, and it never repeats and it never terminates. And it can't be represented as a fraction. So this is an irrational number. But for typical math sakes, what we do is we just round it to 3.14. That is the number that we use for pi. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this formula to calculate the distance of the circle. So let's draw that in so you can see it. What we have here is we got a circle, and it says that it is 8 meters in diameter. And what we know is that that radius is half the distance of diameter, because if we went from the center point out to the edge, we know that this would be 4 meters. So taking that measurement that we know for radius, we're going to plug it into our formula. So what we have is a formula that says area equals pi times r. Well, now we're just going to plug in area equals 3.14 times radius, which is 4, squared. I'm putting brackets around this because I want to make one thing perfectly clear. If we remember back to our order of operations, okay, exponents is one of them that comes first. So this number up here, this little 2 above us, that is up to the power of 2. That is an exponent. And that exponent must be calculated before division or multiplication. So we have to actually calculate that out first before we go ahead and multiply the results here by 3.14. But a lot of students aren't exactly sure what that means. A lot of students make the mistake of thinking that, well, 4 squared must mean 4 times 2. Well, that is actually wrong. What that means actually is 4 times 4. And whenever we have an exponent, that just tells us how many times we're going to multiply that number by itself. So, for example, if I had 4 to the power of 3 with an exponent of 3, that really means 4 times 4 times 4. And if I had 4 to the power of 4, that means 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. All right, so in this case, we're only going to the power of 2, an exponent of 2, so that means we're only going to multiply it by itself one time there. So it'll be 4 times 4. So let's actually draw that out so you can see it. So it's going to be 3.14 times and 4 times 4. And this is going to be 3.14 times 16. And now we just have to multiply this out. And you know what we can do? We can actually bring up our trusty calculator here to help us out. So let's do that. Let's go 3.14, and we're going to multiply that times 16 equals, well, it's 50.24. So write in our answer, 50.24. And we know that this, because pi is an irrational number, this is actually always an approximation. So we just indicate that it's an approximation by putting a little dot over top of the equal sign. That means that it is approximately equal to 50.24. Let's take a look at one more example here to really cement this in. All right, in this case, the diameter that is showing us is 12 centimeters, and we know that obviously half of that is going to be our radius. So our radius is going to be 6 centimeters. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our formula that we've got right here, area equals pi r squared, and we're just going to plug in the numbers. So we're going to say area equals 3.14 times r, which is 6 squared. All right, now what we're going to do is we got to follow our bed mass. 6 squared is going to be 6 times 6. So since we're good at our times tables and we know that 6 times 6 is 36, we're left with 3.14 equals times 36. Let's bring up our calculator. Just hit clear. We're going to say 3.14 times 36 equals 113 and 4/100ths. And this is going to be, we're dealing with our measurement of centimeters, so therefore area is approximately 113.04 centimeters squared. And it's critically important that when you're doing measurement, when you're dealing with area, that you put this exponent above there to demonstrate that it is in fact square. Because otherwise then it's talking about distance as opposed to surface area. So that's very, very important that you put that in there. If it's not in there, then your answer is absolutely wrong. All right, you can rewind this as many times as you need to check this out, but the formula always stays the same. And as long as you have a calculator there, you should be good to go. Now, some calculators will actually have a pi sign on it. I don't believe this calculator does. No, I don't see one on here. So your calculator might even have a sign for pi that gives you a little bit more accurate reading. If you do, great. If you don't, just use 3.14.